no office hours, but as always, any questions that you have, feel free to call or email whoever you need to here in the office, and we'll get you taken care of. And again, Adam Cantor is on deck here getting ready to jump on the screen to talk to you about the WVEIS Snapshot screen. So Adam, man, whenever you're ready, brother, take it away.
Thank you very much, Nathan. I heard that there's going to be an evaluation at the end of this, so for everybody who has sent checks in the mail, I'd appreciate a good review. And since it's tax day, I get to be the bearer of good news today. Actually, I think they moved tax day on us. So, but today we're going to talk CTE snapshot screen, and this is a topic. There's been a couple individuals that have done a great job with this. Eric Hawkins and Doug Cipoletti have done a fantastic job of putting all this together, and they've really worked diligently and hard to make a place for everyone to go to see all things CTE at their school. And that was the concept. And what we're doing is using the snapshot screen as a way to drive things in a more streamlined fashion. As you know, Mr. Birch is very much the mind state that we need to be as efficient as possible. And this is one thing that he's commissioned us to do, is to use the snapshot screen to make things feed off of that. So you see what we see, and we have a level of transparency under his purview. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and start our presentation. And then at the end, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Angie or Alyssa, can you see my PowerPoint screen?
Yes.
Okay. Is it the slideshow or is it the actual PowerPoint?
It's the slideshow.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay. So today we will be working on three major topics as we go through the snapshot screen. I want to talk about CTE enrollment. I want to talk about where do you find the snapshot screen, and I want to talk about what are the functionalities of the snapshot screen. This has been a new change. It's been in place for a little over a year and or two, and it's worked very well, but there's still a lot of learning to be done. A lot of different questions we get concerning where do I find different aspects of it. So what I want to do is go from start to finish. How do you get to the snapshot screen, and then where do you go after the snapshot screen? So the very first thing is nobody shows up on the snapshot screen. No students show up on the snapshot screen unless they're enrolled in CTE. So the very first thing we're going to do is cover making sure that everyone knows how to get a student enrolled in CTE and cover some of those bases. So in order to do that, the very first step to the whole process, let's see, did it change screens, Alyssa?
Right now it's showing CTE snapshot screen with 3 bullets. Is that correct?
That is not correct. And I was worried that might be the case. Let's see if I can. There we go. Did that fix it?
Yes, it changed. Yes.
Okay, excellent. I think I have to click on 2 places to get the slides to turn. Okay, wonderful. So we're now in place here. This is WVEIS, and this is where you go to enroll a student. Most of you probably already know this. It's just review, but you want to go into STU 301 to maintain the student information. You want to select the student that you're working with, and in order to do that, it's going to bring up a screen that gives all of their information on one screen. You want to click the CTE tab. So you'll see the CTE tab at the top. And this will show what this enrollment screen does is it shows every eligible course that a student has that would qualify them for a program of study. And this thing is very intuitive. There's been a lot of work done with this particular section. If you see that the 2021 school year is selected here, this mimics the policy 25-2013 for that particular school year. So it has the correct course sequence for that school year. If you have a student that started 3 years ago and the course sequence has changed since then, you can change the school year, which will change the sequence of courses for that particular program of study. And that's how you can allow a student to complete a program. You will also notice to the right, the section that has a red outline around it. There are 3 sections. You have credits earned, you have what they're enrolled in with a Y, And then you have what school they're enrolled in. So we have a lot of questions with why isn't this student showing up in my snap screen? And you want to go to STU 301 for that student and make sure that they're enrolled in the appropriate school. And then these credits earned show you that, hey, this student by the end of the year, it does look like they're going to be a completer because they've earned a credit in each of these and they're currently enrolled in the last 2 courses. So this is STU 301. Once you've completed these things and you've checked the box to put them in a program of study, because before they actually show up in the snap screen, this checkbox right here has to be marked, which would put them in this Pro Start program. So the blue check mark does have to be marked. Once that's happened, you will they will be sent to the CTE snapshot screen. So you will want to go back to the WVEIS menu. And on the WVEIS menu, you will see a few different items, but one of them is CTE.snap. This is where we can locate the snapshot screen. And so a lot of the calls we get about NOCTI, you'll want to go to this particular screen, CTE Snap, and that's the snapshot of CTE students. Once you land there, you will see that all of the schools within your county, if you're a county administrator, and if you're a principal, you will see the school that you're assigned to will show up here. You will select a school, and then you will make a selection. And you'll notice that there are multiple filters selected. You have, depending on how you want to see the students. So if you have students, let's say that you're at a high school and you have students attending a tech center, you can actually go students leaving my school, and you will see the students that actually leave your school and go to the tech center. So, but for the most part, for most terms, you want to select all, and that will launch every single CTE student that is in your snapshot screen. Here's a picture of what the snapshot screen actually looks like. You have a list of all your students down the left-hand side, and you have a whole lot of information categorized in 3 main headings: student profile, completer, and technical assessments. So now that we've found the snapshot screen and we know how to get there, we're going to talk about the functionality of each section and what do we look at the end of the year reports, and what are good tools for you to use as a school administrator so that you can best navigate through all the different things we ask for. So the very first section of the snapshot screen is the student profile. So we're going to zoom in a little bit on this section and talk about each of the headings. You have the student's WVEIS number, the student's name, you have their grade and their home school. So if you were at a tech center, this would be what school they're coming from. And if you're at the home school already, it's just going to list your school. When they actually got enrolled will be right here. So when did you actually go to the CTE center, or CTE tab on STU 301, and you'll go in there, and whenever you enrolled them, whatever year you chose will show up as enrolled. And then you have 2 sections. You have credentials and drug testing. And those 2 sections right there we'll cover in a little more detail later on in the presentation. I'll show you each of those things. But this is the main student profile information. Just gives you kind of an overview of the students. The next section, the big yellow section, is the completer section. This is a very useful tool for school administrators that I use consistently when we get a phone call on particular questions concerning one student. So you'll notice that in this particular example, we have the credits earned for the student and the enrolled courses for the student. So you can see that this student, in order to be a completer, the computer looks at this credits earned column at the end of the year. So at the end of the year, if you have 1 credit in the 4 required courses, you will pass on to the next filter, which we will talk about in a little bit. But so this is one of the main aspects as we look at the credits earned. So you will see, let's see if there's any this is where I oftentimes go to if there might happen to be a mistake. So you'll see at the bottom, we'll have a school think that a student is going to be a completer, but you'll see at the bottom, this particular student is marked as a completer for yes, but they have 1 credit earned and they're only enrolled in 2 courses. And we all know that in order to be a completer, you have to have 4 courses. So this would be kind of a red flag that, hey, we might need to check this student's schedule and see if there is another class they need to take in order to be counted as a completer. Because the rule of thumb is that even if you mark yes, this yes, no column is basically for NOCTI. It's to allow NOCTI to know whether you're eligible to order a test for a student or not. So if you check yes, but don't have the appropriate credits for a student, that student will not count as a completer. So the computer is looking at the credits earned column primarily. Then we have one other column on the right called virtual student. This is something that we've put in place because of COVID. You know, last year the testing was waived, but this year what we've done is from the beginning of the year, we sent out some guidance that established that a CTE completer that belongs to a program of study. So if you want to say I have a welding completer, they must complete the NOCTI. So the two requirements to go to the completers table at the end of the year are this credits earned and you participated in the NOCTI. So those are the two requirements to be CTE completer. But if you have students that are virtual, that haven't had a chance to do the hands-on components of the class, that you can't get to the school to take the test, we understand and we don't want you to lose them as a completer. So we've created this virtual column that shows that you can mark any student at any time throughout the year from now until June 1st. You can check and uncheck them. But when it's time to go to the end of the year table, if this student is checked as a virtual CTE completer, they will not be required to participate in the NOCTI. With that being said, they will also they won't be a welding completer, they would become a virtual CTE completer for your school. So you might have 100 completers at your school and 80 might be virtual completers and the other 20 might be spread across in different programs of study. So it's almost like virtual CTE completers become their own program of study so that we understand it doesn't skew the data for testing results. Please note in that last section that a selection must be made for completer or not before you send to NOCTI. The last section is based upon technical assessments. This technical assessment section is broken into multiple categories, all about the NOCTI test. So if you want a student to show up in a NOCTI to take a test, you have to come here first. We have tied a bridge between NOCTI and the WVEIS snapshot screen. And so the only thing that shows up in NOCTI is what you have put in the snapshot screen. And that's kind of a checks and balances so we don't miss anything. So once you've selected whether that student is going to be a completer, and they don't have to be a completer to go to NOCTI. Anybody can go to NOCTI. You just have to let us know are they a completer or not so we know whether we're going to pay for the test. So you select send to NOCTI, and it's also going to bring over whether that student's current IEP has text-to-speech and extended time. If you've been with CTE for a while and participated in NOCTI for years, you'll know that we used to go in one by one and have to put in text-to-speech and extended time for each individual tester. And since we've built this bridge, we no longer have to do that. It just reads off the current IEP and flows into this particular section. Then you'll notice the benchmark score, and that's the pretest score for any student that you've pre-tested. And then you'll notice the NOCTI audit score, the post-test score, and it's got a section where it also shows the workforce readiness score. So did they pass that workforce entry level score? And it's going to actually have two scores right here once a student is tested. It'll have what they took and what they needed to get to be considered a passing rate. The passing rate is not used for accountability purposes. It is just to signify if they are work ready. And then lastly, you will see a portfolio score where you can go in and enter a student's portfolio score. The next thing I want to cover quickly is that you have the capability that has been built into this to select any student's name and get all the information on one screen. So instead of having to go back and forth between Stu 301 and the snapshot screen, you can select a student's name where this red is, and it populates this entire section. So this entire section has the student's name, their location, their grade level, when you enrolled them, and then it has a section dedicated to their current IEP. So if their IEP is not current, it will not bring over. So if it has that they need a special accommodation for grades 3 through 8, that will not affect the NOCD assessment because the NOCD assessment is not for grades 3 through 8. So sometimes there's some confusion on why something didn't get automated for text-to-speech or extended time. And oftentimes it's because the IEP is not updated. So that's just a little note to self. So you could go here and check and see what the actual codes are and what is needed to be for that student. And it can also help you if you are a NOCD coordinator to make sure that any additional accommodations that a computer cannot provide, that you might be able to provide those for the tester. It also has a section dedicated to what does it take to be a completer for whatever program they're enrolled in. So there's careers in ed, and here's the courses that it takes to be a completer. And it also notes that their transcript, so you can scroll through and look at their entire transcript and the courses that they've earned credit for. And then at the bottom is a schedule that shows all of the different courses that they are currently enrolled in. So this is a very useful tool for administrators to use when they're drilling into one particular issue in a particular program of study or student. Another section that we can click on are the add buttons for credentials and drug testing. They will populate screens like this. The top is the credential, the bottom is the drug testing. I want to be very clear, these are not required. They are not required whatsoever. These are tools for administrators to use if you so choose. So if you choose to use a credential tracker that allows you to tally points, you're welcome to do that. If you choose to enter drug tests for a student so that you can keep track, you're welcome to do that. We do not use these for accountability purposes or to check on any particular item. At this time, I will stop sharing my screen and take any particular questions with anything that we've covered today. Does anyone have any questions for me concerning the snapshot screen or anything else?
Adam, I did just want to point out that there is an issue with the text-to-speech because of the high school level. I've talked with both Doug and the special ed folks, and the code that is put on an IEP to do text-to-speech is typically not used for the SAT, which is what we are now giving at the 11th grade level. I can't remember the ins and outs of it, but it's something with the SAT. Even if a kid has that accommodation in their classes, they're not doing it on the SAT, and I can't remember the reason why. So that does create a disconnect, that we have kids that are in their CTE classes are getting text-to-speech on assessments, but it's not necessarily that the SAT section on the IEP is different. And
so I will tell you that we did work with special ed when we assigned those codes, but I am more than happy. We will make note of it now, and we will check with special ed. And if we need to add, change, remove any codes that currently allow that auto population of text to speech, by all means, we want to do that. And I hear you loud and clear. I will make note, and we will check on it immediately after this call. And if we need to make a change, we'll get with our programmers and have them change that within the APIs. Thank you so much for bringing that up.
Yeah, I think that was the issue. It's that there's not a